Hi, this is Bill Eagle from North Central ESD with another eVAL support video. And today we're going to be looking at summative evaluations in the eVAL application. So I am logged into the eVAL sandbox, which is a generic version of eVAL that allows me to do some trainings. And I'm logged in as Principal A, which would be your name in the upper left here. I'm going to select a teacher. Teacher A is going to be the teacher I'm going to work on for this summative evaluation. And while I'm on teacher A, if I click observations, you can see that I've done a few observations with this teacher, both formal and informal, and looks like maybe I'm ready for a final summative evaluation. So I'm going to go ahead and go over to the left. And from the menu on the left, I'll choose summative evaluation. And they give you a nice flow chart here in this overview page that kind of shows the process as it will come about when you complete the summative evaluation, including where the teacher has to respond, et cetera, what to do if the teacher doesn't respond after a certain amount of time. So it's worth your time to maybe read that. There's some great information as you scroll down. So maybe I think I'm ready for the final report. If I go and click on the tab at the top that says final report, you'll see, however, there are some issues here, and it shows that I'm missing criterion scores for all 8 criteria. And really what that means in terms of my example here is, although I've packaged evidence along the way, I've held off on scoring criteria until the very end here, which if you're looking at using eVAL as kind of a growth model evaluation, you may want to hold off to the end. That's going to be a personal choice. So I'm actually going to score those criteria now. And if I go to the evidence and scoring tab, I will have the option to score each of the criterion C1 through C8 and wrap this up. Now, before I do that, I want to point out over here in the upper right-hand corner, there's this little gear that says show list of observations. And I already looked at that list of observations. It was kind of how I decided maybe I'm ready to do a summative evaluation on this teacher. But I'm going to go ahead and click this, and I always do that for this reason. It shows me these observations that I was looking at before, but you notice that one of them has a no in the complete column. And so whatever was in that observation is not going to be included in this report unless that gets marked complete. So I have an informal observation out there on February 28th that for one reason or another was not marked complete. Now, that means the teacher didn't mark it complete or I didn't mark it complete, because as an administrator, after a certain amount of time, you may need to mark an observation complete, especially if you're wrapping this stuff up and maybe a teacher is gone for spring break and you're trying to move things forward, and you guys have had the post conference and you know everything's good to go. So I'm going to go ahead before I start scoring. I'm going to go back into observations. I'm going to mark that February 28th observation complete. So I go back to the tab on the left. I'm going to click on observations. There's my February 28th observation at the bottom. It says waiting for teacher review response. So it hasn't been marked complete. I'm going to view that, and I'm going to go ahead and mark as complete by clicking the box myself up here in the corner. So eVAL will take a second, mark that observation complete. And now when I go back to work on this teacher's summative evaluation, under evidence and scoring, if I look at that list again, show me that list of observations, you'll see now that it is in fact marked complete. And so it will be included in the packaged evidence as I begin to score here. So I'm ready to score. I'm going to hide that list of observations. And as I go to score, you'll see in criterion 1, I have some gray boxes in basic and some gray boxes in proficient. And those are pieces of evidence that I've packaged. I notice that the first gray box has a 1 in it, which means one of my packaged evidence items was scored basic. The other box, the proficient, has 5 scores in it. And so the preponderance of evidence here is that in criterion 1, this teacher is proficient. I could go in to see what does that look like individual score wise. So I have over here my collected evidence. There are 3 items collected and I packaged all 3 of them, for example, in criterion 1.1. So I could go back in by clicking there and looking to see what was actually in there if I have any question about what score I need to give for this criterion. I'm pretty confident, however, that it's going to be proficient. So I'm going to go ahead and mark proficient for that criterion and move on to criterion 2. So in criterion 2, I've got a couple of different scores to look at. You can see I packaged evidence. I had 1 item in basic, again, 5 items in proficient, and 1 item in distinguished. So preponderance of evidence here, this teacher is most likely proficient in criterion 2. So this is really how you're going to continue marking scores. I'm going to go ahead and move through each of the criteria and complete the scores for this teacher. Looks like that one's going to be proficient as well. And again, if you had any question, you could go back in and look at the actual evidence that led to these packages. And I'm going to go ahead and go with distinguished in criterion 8. So now I've gone through all 8 criterion. I provided scores. I think I'm ready for the final evaluation report. So I'm going to go back here and I'm going to click report, and you'll see that the report is ready to send to the teacher. Now, typically you would have a conference before this final report is sent to the teacher to make sure everything is good, and you could look at the conference tab if you want to put some final recommendations. For example, this teacher will be on focused form next year. Excuse my typing. So you can include those kinds of things in recommendations. You can even put an end of year conference date, and I can click the recommendation for focus form for next year. If I'm ready for a criterion, we can select those. Maybe this teacher's going to do criterion 1. We've had the conference, so I know that they're going to do criterion 1 next year, and student growth criterion 3. So, that's an option for how you can wrap up with some final recommendations. Again, when I click the final report tab, I'm ready. I can drop this to paper. I can create a PDF and send that to the teacher. I'm going to go ahead and click send the final report to the teacher. And you kind of see down here what's going to go along with that report. You've got the observation dates on there. You've got the criterion summary, which shows how I scored a particular criterion along the way. And then at the very bottom, you're going to get the detailed packaged evidence. So this shows the evidence we collected and packaged along the way by criterion, which is one of the great reasons for packaging evidence along the way, is that you get it neatly bundled by criterion in these reports. Makes it a lot easier if you're going to do your scoring at the end, like I just did. So hope that was helpful. Please reach out to me at the ESD if you have questions about eVAL. I'm more than happy to help. Thank you.